What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. All right, today's video, we're gonna be talking about New Mutants, number 19 by Vita Ayala and Alex Linz. And in this video, we are going to learn a little bit more about what has been going on with the character Warlock since Doug, aka Cypher, married the Iraqi mutant Bay the Blood Moon, and how Warlock is coping with this situation. And more importantly, we're also going to learn a little bit more about how Wolfsbane is coping with the fact that her son Tyr has not been resurrected, much less has she even been told whether he's actually alive or dead. And more importantly, we're gonna find out the outcome of the conversation between the Shadow King and Scout from the previous issue and learn a very startling and trigger warning worthy truth about their meeting. We're going to talk about all this and more right now. But first, if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoy the video, I humbly ask that you Hulk smash that like button because it really helps the channel out. That said, let's hit that intro.
Word to wise, grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple eyes. You can't see me, you Stevie, wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
Once again, this is a Hellfire Gala issue, so everything is in full swing. The party is carrying on as many would probably expect, and for the most part, we're kind of following Dani Moonstar as she's making her way through all the guests and, everything that's going on, with Warlock and some of the other characters. She's kind of intermingling in and out of all of their different stories that are going on. The first one that we actually really dig into, though, is with Wolfsbane, and of course, we kind of know what's been going on with Wolfsbane. Her son, Tyr, who is not only a mutant, but is also theoretically Asgardian, he has not been resurrected and she has not been told why. And now this part we know, we've been through this. However, Dani does not know any of this because Dani was supposed to go with her to X Factor to find out why Tyr would not be resurrected. But because of the shenanigans that were going on with the young mutant Jonathan, who ran off into Otherworld, and then all the shenanigans going on with Karma, Dani has just been MIA. And now she's learning that she's kind of been a bad friend, even though technically she's been a good friend. And this is one of those scenarios where with a little bit of talking, a little bit of conversation, this type of drama doesn't carry over very long because Wolfsbane does know the truth that, yeah, if Dani could have been there, she would have been there. And even if Dani would have tried to be there, if Wolfsbane would have known that all these other things were going on, she would have told her to kick rocks as well and go help her other friends. It's just the way it is. But point of the matter is, I do appreciate this moment because it reveals to us that a lot of characters, a lot of X-Men characters on this island don't really know how the resurrection protocols work. They don't know the ins and outs of it. They don't know who is allowed and who is not allowed to be resurrected. And more importantly, they don't understand when they're told that someone can't be brought back. This is also something I've been kind of wondering in regards to the character Thunderbird, because we do see a moment later on this book, and let's go ahead and jump to it. The fact that when we speak with the character Warpath, Warpath is helping Warlock learn how to cope with the idea that he feels no longer as connected to the character Cypher. Cypher and Warlock used to be inseparable. They're best friends, but Warlock is in a position right now where, because of the fact that Cypher is so caught up in the honeymoon of his marriage with Bay the Blood Moon, he's been emotionally unavailable, and for that matter, it makes Warlock feel like he's a lesser being for it. He feels like he has no friend and that he needs to find a new friend, someone to replace what he lost. And it's here that Warpath is actually the one who explains to him that you didn't lose Doug. Doug is still there, and he probably feels the exact same way you do. He feels like he's alone, not necessarily in the physical sense because he has Bay the Blood Moon, but he probably feels like he's not seeing his friends as much as he wants to. And this is also kind of Warpath's way of talking about how much he misses his own brother, Thunderbird, which I find it kind of interesting that Thunderbird has yet to be brought back in any capacity on Krakoa, or at least if he has, we haven't seen him. But in this regard, it makes it seem as though, yeah, he has not, in fact, been brought back. I think the most we've seen of Thunderbird since House of X is in the pages of Giant Size X-Men Nightcrawler, where we saw an illusion of Thunderbird, but that's neither here nor there. Point of the matter is, Warpath is able to actually galvanize Warlock to not hiding from Doug and not keeping himself from Doug, but actually trying to be around Doug and also at the same time getting to know Doug's new wife. And we kind of see this all playing out, that they're actually getting along, that, Bay the Blood Moon is actually interacting with him and they're having fun. And all he had to do was not live with this perception that he felt that Doug didn't want him around anymore. But no, if he just went and spoke to them and made an effort, he learned very quickly that his perception was not reality. All of that aside, everything else is about par for the course. Yes, there are wacky shenanigans. There's even an interesting moment where we see Karma literally do a major clapback on some asshole artist who is not even really worth talking about, but it is really an epic clapback. I'm not going to really spend time on it here because there's nothing else really to talk about here. However, the thing that I felt was very heavy in this otherwise very fun issue is we do learn the outcome of Scout's conversation with the Shadow King. In the previous issue, Wolfsbane brought Scout to meet with him because Wolfsbane felt that if Scout felt that the Shadow King was a danger to Scout's other friends, those friends being Anoli, Cosmar, Rainboy, and No Girl, she felt that the Shadow King at least had a right to know how Scout felt. And more importantly, Wolfsbane has been working with the Shadow King as of recent to help him reach out to those that the Shadow King feels need his quotey fingers help. Somewhere in this book, we learn that Laura Kinney, aka Wolverine, has not seen Scout at the party, and she finds it incredibly weird and awkward that Scout is not around. Even reaching out to the character Dakin, asking if he has seen Scout, which he has not. This all ends in a very ugly fashion while we're witnessing Warlock interact with Bay the Blood Moon and Cypher and create a new friendship. We start reading these dialogue boxes that almost seem like they go along with what it is we're actually witnessing, but then you soon learn this is not the conversation. These are not the people involved. The players involved are the Shadow King and Scout, with the Shadow King talking about how he never had the opportunity to make friends when he was Scout's age, and that by the time he was 10, his father, along with hundreds of his neighbors, had been taken by a plague. But he was never alone. He always had him. And by him, what Amal Farouk is referring to is the Shadow King. And he says that for a long time, he thought that what they had together was good, but because of him, he was never alone, and that wherever they went, they were always met with cheers and joy, but it wasn't real, and Amal Farouk understands that. Not only does he understand that, he understands why Gabby feels the way she feels about her friends, even going on to say that when he first came to Krakoa, it was the first time in centuries that he felt free. He is still there, talking about the Shadow King, talking about the pieces of him that still exist within his body, but that somehow on this island, the Shadow King is somehow made dormant, that there's something about being on the island of Krakoa that suppresses the Shadow King within Amal Farouk. So the person we have been witnessing is, for the most part, Amal Farouk, though he is still possessed by the Shadow King, but the Shadow King doesn't seem to have as much control over Amal Farouk's actions as he normally would on this island. He goes on to say that he can think and feel for himself, and it's almost as if he's breathing for the first time, and for the first time since he was a child, people smiled at him, and it was their choice to do so. Gabby's friends came to him because they were curious and they felt safe. They felt that Amal Farouk had their best intentions at heart, and that it felt good to feel that way, that someone actually wanted his help, and that they weren't afraid of him because of who they knew he was. And that Amal Farouk understands that these children were lost. They were lost the same way that he was. They are feeling the very same things in their teenage days as he felt in his, only they don't have the Shadow King to make them feel better, and he wants to give them something that can help them. He knows that yes, Krakoa is for all mutants. Krakoa promises safety, but as I think we all understand, Krakoa isn't going to be a thing forever, and Amal Farouk understands that even better than anyone else. And that in time, they are going to have to face off with a world that hates and fears them, just like they always have since the very beginning. And that when that time comes, they're going to have to be as dangerous and as ruthless as he has always been considered to be. The way Amal Farouk talks about this, he says that he knows better than most what lurks in the darkness, and he won't let them become prey to it, and that he will not have anyone poisoning them against him before he can teach them what they will need to know to survive. And simply tells Gabby goodbye. Honestly, it kind of comes off as though Amal Farouk is being genuine. We don't really know how much of this is true. We've always kind of known Amal Farouk to be a shady sort. I mean, this was a guy who technically was using and abusing Storm when she was but a child. So it's hard to say whether or not this guy is actually telling the truth. He does say that the Shadow King has no control over him right now, that the Shadow King is dormant on Krakoa, but how much of that can we actually believe? That said, I do kind of feel like Amal Farouk has no reason to lie about this situation, so a part of me is almost kind of willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. Where things get weird though is when Laura Kinney makes it back to her home, she discovers that Scout is not around. However, she does find a note left by Gabby, a note that honestly changes the way you look at the situation that is about to come. We discover that No Girl, Cosmar, Anoli, and Rainboy, they're just roaming about the place, and while they're out walking around, they discover something that looks like an arm. And when they uncover it, and I want to give a trigger warning right now that if you are the least bit sensitive about these matters, I would highly suggest you walk away right now or at least skip ahead a few seconds. But what they discover is the body of Scout, dead with her eyes rolled into the back of her head. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I found this moment incredibly triggering. This moment actually kind of bothered me a great deal. I was not prepared for it. I honestly didn't really even know how to feel about it because I just felt like, oh my God, this kind of came out of nowhere, and it brought a tear to my eye. I'm not gonna lie to you about that. That said, post seeing this, we are drawn over to the letter that was left for Laura, and this does not read like the letter of someone who was going to kill themselves, much less go somewhere where they expected they wouldn't be returning. I don't know if Amal Farouk had anything to do with this himself, but something tells me the Shadow King did. The Shadow King may be dormant on the island, but something tells me the Shadow King is quite capable of doing whatever he wants whenever he wants. Clearly the kids, Cosmar, Noli, Rainboy, and No Girl, they had no clue this was gonna happen. They seemed just as shocked as anybody else. They are equally as surprised, but something tells me that somewhere in this, we're gonna find out that Amal Farouk, while he may not be the culprit, he most certainly knows who is. And I don't know, man, this whole issue changed my entire perspective on this story arc. Like, this isn't the way that I expected it to go, like, at all. That said, this also brings up a very interesting question. Scout's greatest fear was that she could not be resurrected due to the protocol stating that clones were not allowed. And while yes, Gabby is theoretically a clone of Wolverine, just like Laura. However, there is information that we learned during the Hunt for Wolverine story arc that revealed to us that Laura actually has a mother, so she's actually not so much a clone as she is an actual daughter of Wolverine. This makes me wonder if Scout is in pretty much the same boat, considering the fact that they came up through the exact same program. However, Gabby was just the younger of the sisters. That said, this is going to put Gabby's fear to the test. Is she going to be resurrected? Are they going to leave her dead because she is a clone? We'll have to wait to find out, but something tells me she is going to be allowed to come back because, like Laura, she likely also had a mother and is, for all intents and purposes, not so much a clone, but maybe more like an actual daughter to Wolverine, just the same way that Laura is. But anyways, that said, if you enjoyed this video, Hulk smash that like button and make sure to share this video all over the internet and with all your friends so they'll know how you leveled up your comic book big brain in regards to New Mutants and the Hellfire Gala. On your way out, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know what you thought about New Mutants number 19. Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.